Welcome to another edition of the Matrix Podcast. It's just me today, although I am joined by a guest that Melissa provided. So he's not going to have a lot to say. We're going off track just a little bit here to give people insight about when to hire IT help and what that IT help looks like. So frequently, we run into customers or potential customers, really, people that we're just talking to who are just not sure, like, what is a managed service provider? What's the difference between them and all these other things? And so I thought that we would talk a little bit about this. This will give you information from our perspective as well as industry norms. So, as you grow your business, how do you handle IT? Do you just outsource it? Do you hire a managed service provider, which is what Matrix is? Or do you hire someone internally? Now, in years past, and we're talking probably early, mid 2000s, you would probably have an internal hire because you have servers. Cloud wasn't really a thing then. So you would probably have an internal hire, but only one person to handle all the user support, servers, internet connections were becoming popular then. And those are kind of the three things. But the real question here isn't so much cost, although we'll talk about that. It's leverage. And this decision is about really where you're going to get the best return per dollar and per hour of attention. Maybe not the cheapest selection in a spreadsheet of choices, right? So how much work you have to do and the predictability of the response to trouble tickets really drive this choice. So if you have a lot of high volume work, it's predictable and it's steady, stuff like that, that would favor picking an MSP or perhaps an internal hire. Spikier project work would be more outsourced, project-based, fixed cost, stuff like that. So a couple of things here. When you have a core function that is how you make money, it's down to pretty much choice number one would be internal, hire an actual FTE, but it depends on how many people you have to support. Okay, hire internal when you need context and availability, like someone right there. He has an office, in your space, and you have a need for a very fast response time. And it doesn't necessarily matter if that internal person is an expert in all the IT stuff you have. So when it becomes down to availability, it's probably going to be an internal hire. But you do give up some functionality with that when you don't hire an MSP or other sort of contractor, because at an MSP, you would have someone who is an expert at firewalls and people that are experts at desktop support and people that are experts at servers or cloud. One internal hire, it's very unlikely they're going to be experts in all of those kinds of things. The other thing to think about is for an employee is cost of overhead. It's about 1.5 times your salary, benefits, taxes, tools, all that kind of stuff. So anything really that if you hire somebody for 70K, it's really going to be closer to 95 or 100K for an employee. Now it's not news to people that have been in business a while, but it's a consideration. When you have a situation where you need the expertise of various team members, but it's only really one person's workload, that's an MSP. That's exactly what we are the best at. So you get for basically the cost of a mid-tier professional, or a little less, depending on how your network is managed and stuff like that. You get a team of experts who can also tap outside expertise and or collaborate. So they can be really good at that kind of stuff. MSPs also win in continuity and risk transfer. So what does that mean? Continuity means there's a team of people here. And if, one of our people is busy, well, there's 5 more. So your problems do get addressed. And then risk, basically what having an MSP, now managed service provider, manages all of the aspects of your tech. We prepare budgets, we manage hardware, we obviously fix things when they break, we bring new solutions to the table. It's a fully fledged, basically an MSP is your IT department. Okay, they should be handling all of that stuff. And as a byproduct of that, you also do get a fair amount of risk transfer. So now IT problems, IT failures, IT, things burning out of control, that's the MSP's problem. It's not yours. So you do manage to transfer some of that risk. When it comes to projects for highly specialized pieces of software, accounting software, project management, stuff like that, that's going to be an outside project. And those guys, they're typically consultants who will specialize in Sage or AutoCAD or whatever it is. That's not really going to be the work of a typical MSP or a typical inside hire, unless you need a full-time database administrator, for instance. So there's that. Another thing to be aware of is what we call the accidental internal hire. And that is basically bolting those IT responsibilities onto an office manager or some other tech savvy person. We see this some fair amount. It's typically small businesses that do this, and it just becomes like, this is the way we've always done it. You text Kathy, she's the office manager, and she'll sort it out. We have seen cases where it's the youngest person in the office, and they're tech savvy, and they may be, but you probably didn't hire that person to do IT work. You hired them to manage your office, manage your finances, things like that. So at some point, IT becomes critical path. So watch out, because that can be, while it's well intentioned, and yes, it does save money when you're small and growing. It doesn't scale real well. So like rules of thumb, rough head counts, things like that, anywhere under probably 30 employees, that's going to be the sweet spot for most managed service providers. That's where you can really, the MSP can really do some work and do some damage and get things squared away from you. For 20 to 75, still MSP, but above 75, that will be a bigger MSP. It's going to be able to handle 75 people, because 75 people, you're going to have 100 computers, give or take. So there's that. For anything over really 100, you're talking about a dedicated internal function. But we have clients that have that many employees, and MSP model just works fine. You have to scale it a little bit in order to handle that many, but it can still work. The other way that you can do this when you get up around those kinds of numbers you can co-manage. So you could have a guy, an IT guy, in-house who does a lot of the user-facing work, trying to figure out and fix various problems, and then use the MSP for their expertise and also depth. So if your internal guy, maybe he's on vacation, or maybe he's just swamped, those tickets flow through to the help desk and we can backstop him. That works really well. And it's an underrated solution for a lot of IT support. Matrix currently does it, I don't know, the handful, maybe 3 or 4 clients where they have an on-prem IT guy and we work with them and we backstop them. How to tell it's time to kind of change models, internal versus MSP versus the others. If things start slipping, projects start getting delayed, you find security gaps, slow responses, stuff like that. Those are all indications of one of two things. Either A, you don't have a great solution provider, or B, things just start to slide. They're not handled as well as they were before. I's are not being dotted, T's are not being crossed. So that's some insight into the different IT support models that we see. Remember, it's a matter of leverage, right? You want to use this to make your business more successful. Don't ask, employee or vendor. Ask, what's the job? How predictable is it? And how core is it to the business? The answer falls out of that. And, if you decide that it really is core and you need in-house expertise, then that's the way you have to go. You can't, and it'll be more expensive than hiring an MSP, but that's the way it has to go. Unless you can find an MSP with a very particular set of skills, but MSPs tend to be generalists. We know a lot about a lot of stuff, but not everything. So that's kind of some insight there to those kinds of questions. If you have other questions, just post on wherever you see this particular podcast. Could be LinkedIn, could be YouTube, or just reach out to us through any of the social media channels. Thanks again.